How's my hair?
Oh, do you have gum?
Nope.
No? Okay.
We're good. Hi everyone, Juliana Forlano here on a beautiful summer day in New York City at the Youth Climate March, where you can see behind me blocks and blocks and blocks of young people have gathered to actually bring attention to what is happening with the climate, which you don't hear very much. You can hear, if you take a look at how young the organizers are right here, they're talking about how they're just about to start. I can't gauge age, but I would imagine high school is what we're talking about here. We will have a chance to talk about that, to talk with them a little bit later. So they're just getting started. We are in front of Trump International Hotel and Tower, which is a very fitting place to start marching.
Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry if you can't hear me right now, but when we all start walking, it's probably going to become clear what's happening anyways. So, we're going to start with some march chants, and then we're going to head off. All right.
As you can see, march organizers are right up front. They said they're going to be starting with some march chants, and they are marching to the UN Plaza, where there's going to be a rally in a little bit. Again, you're watching act.tv. Please start sharing this stream on your page so that other people can hear about the environment, which they're not going to hear about on mainstream news. Because, as it turns out, I haven't heard anything about the environment on the mainstream media for quite some time. Even though, according to the Sierra Club this week, Ryan Zinke, Secretary of the Interior, has decided that it's important to roll back the Endangered Species Act. Of course, that kind of rollback is something that would allow big corporations to run amok and do whatever they want to do, whether it's poison streams, log certain areas, log on public lands. That's basically what Ryan Zinke wants, is to give away all our public lands to corporate influence. And that's just happening this week, so it is important to call your Congress people and let them know that you care about preserving endangered species, care about preserving public lands. Again, you're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City, starting out in front of the Trump International Hotel and Tower, which I'm sure they plowed down something beautiful in order to put up. As you can see, although it is a youth march, there are people here of all ages and nationalities.
I'm trying to get back to the...
Again, you are watching act.tv's coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City. There are youth, there are non-youth, there are very little youth. We are going to march. We've been encouraged to come and march. Support your local pollinators. We have people for the bees, off the Fossil Fuels Act. We're going to have to talk to some of these folks because a lot of people are here representing certain actions that they want taken. It's a beautiful day for a climate march. Again, you're watching act.tv's live coverage of the climate march. Just seeing a sign go by, break the climate science, which I was just talking about in terms of the fact that no one is talking about the impending collapse of our ecosystem. And Ryan Zinke, Secretary of the Interior, is this week trying to roll back protections for the endangered species, which basically is not necessarily about saving the piping plover, although it definitely is. It is about allowing corporations to have free access to our public lands. The Endangered Species Act protects species habitat, and that means you can't log them, and you can't plow them down, and you can't mine for coal under them, etc. And that's getting in the way of the corporate agenda. So, of course, these folks are marching, as you can see, against that. As you can see, it's hard to count. I certainly haven't counted them as they've been coming by, but I'd say we're in the hundreds of folks marching down the street here in front of Trump International Hotel and Tower in New York City. I like this guy. Dissent is patriotic. I speak for the trees. A lot of very good signage here. We're going to have to catch up with these folks and ask them a whole bunch of questions. Yeah, let's get started. Let's go down.
No.
Let's go down. Hi, could we talk to you a little bit about what the Sunrise Movement is and why you're marching here today?
Yeah, sure.
Well, go ahead. Tell us. We're with act.tv, and you can see this is our camera person. We'll let her get up a little bit ahead of us. So tell us a little bit about Sunrise Movement and why you're here today. We'll just keep walking while we do it.
So the Sunrise Movement is a youth-led movement to stop climate change and create millions of good jobs in the process. We just started...
Wait, you can stop climate change and preserve and create jobs?
Yes. In fact, that's shown that serious action on climate change will create a large number of good jobs, and we want to make sure that does happen. We started last year, and with just a few people, and we've grown rapidly. Right now, one of the big campaigns that we're working on is the No Fossil Fuel Money campaign. So
is that here in New York City or across the country?
Across the country. We're active in various parts of the country. And
how do you organize? Via? Are you in school?
I just finished high school.
That's great.
And I'm now...
Please save us. We are counting on you because I finished high school a long time ago, and we're still in this crisis.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of young people all around here who are organizing with Sunrise. We keep growing, and we keep building more power and getting closer to the goal of stopping climate change.
How can people get involved, and are people allowed to get involved who are, not exactly youth?
Yeah, we welcome a wide variety of age ranges, although we certainly do consider ourselves to be youth-driven, youth-led.
Where can folks find you?
You can find us at sunrisemovement.org. You can find us on social media, Sunrise MVMT. So if you want a flyer.
Excellent. Anything else you'd like to say? Do we want to add anything? Oh, you don't want to talk. I get it. Don't worry about it. Thank you so much. So we have very young people. I mean, I don't know how young is young. After high school, they are young. Oh, sure. Let's get the band. We've got a band. You're watching the Youth Climate March here in New York City. And we're going in front of a tour bus. Hi, tour people. They're getting a real tour. Street action in New York City. Are these big bus New York tours clean buses? Biofuels? I don't think so.
There's lots of power there. Look at the sun up in the sky. There's lots of power there. There's lots of power there.
You are watching act.tv's live coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City, where young people have both organized and are participating along with people of many different ages and groups. It's not just young people, but there are a lot of young people here protesting against climate policy and encouraging a clean energy economy. Let's see if we can talk to some of the marchers as we march down to Dag Hammersand Park. As you can see, there are tourists clapping as they go by.
I love this
Let's run up. We're going to run up a little bit and have a little bit of conversation. Let's cross and talk to that woman with this thing. Hi, can you talk to us for a moment? I really like your song.
Sure.
Okay, hi. You're watching act.tv, and we're at the Youth Climate March, and this is an excellent sign. Hi, can you talk about why you came out today and what you're hoping that will happen?
I hope that, we'll get our legislators to act on climate change now. And I also, this is for the youth. They sponsor this, they put this on, and they are our future. So the fact that they're leading the movement is it's just awesome and it's amazing. And I'm here to support, climate action now and support our youth and secure a future that they can have a sustainable planet.
What are the main concerns that you have at this moment around environmentalism?
Well, really, the United States pulling out of the, Paris Accords.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's awful. Unfortunately, so many legislators across the country have, signed on to stick by it. So that's good. And just our politicians are not taking it seriously enough, and the head of the EPA is just not.
Oh, he's
yeah.
Well, the first guy was horrible. Now this next guy is also horrible.
He's supposed to be even worse. So, it greatly concerns me, that they're not taking it seriously because our future is at stake and our children's future and grandchildren's future.
It seems to me like Donald Trump is getting people of conscience crazy on all fronts, and just, it's almost like there's so much to protest against and to stop that the environment seems to have taken a back seat. You don't really hear about it on the news.
I feel the same way. I've been to a lot of marches over the past year and a half, and unfortunately, a lot of the climate marches get overlooked. They don't get a lot of media attention.
That's how I was like, climate march, let's do this.
People show up, people go to every other protest, but climate is actually, I think, the number one and most important issue, because if we don't have a planet, we can't fight these other issues.
I agree.
So we got to take it seriously.
It's hard to be poisoned and come out and march against other issues, which, those issues like separation of parents, we've Roe versus Wade being threatened, all of these DACA, all of these things that we do need to work against, but the underlying issue seems to me to be the environment in which we all live in.
I agree, and climate change actually affects minorities more than it affects anybody else. It affects communities of color, like what's going on in Flint, Michigan right now. Puerto Rico, what's going on in Puerto Rico, there's still people without power. It affects,
It's not really discussed as a minority issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like police brutality and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand with social justice, racial justice, and everything. Absolutely.
What do you think people who are watching at home should do and can do to support, a clean environment at this moment?
I think that they should stay posted, check 5calls.org every day.
Oh, 5calls.org.
Yeah, 5calls.org, and find out what's going on with environmental issues and write their senators, call their reps. And 5calls.org is great. It gives you a script. It tells you who your senator is. It makes it very simple for you.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks a lot. It's Juliana here for ACT.tv. You're watching ACT.tv's live coverage of the Youth Climate March. We are in New York City. We just went across Central Park South and are now standing still on 7th Avenue. Maybe let's move up and talk to these women of color right here. We just had a conversation about how the environment is a racial justice issue as well. You're watching ACT.tv. I don't think one of the signs I saw was, stop the climate blackout. And I think that's really important, climate media blackout, and we're trying to do that here with ACT.tv today. So share this page, please. Share this march so other people can talk to people who are involved in the movement and who care about protecting the environment and the climate. Would you... Oh, Rockaway, I used to live there.
Oh, wow.
Will you talk to me? I'm covering for Facebook for ACT.tv. Yeah? Okay. What's her name? Andrea. Can you talk? I used to live in Rockaway. Oh, so, yeah. I lived in... Hi. Will you talk on camera? Oh, God. So there's a lot in Rockaway about the environment. Like, they just put a big pipeline in. When I was living there, they were digging up the beach and putting in a gas pipeline, a natural gas pipeline. Oh, it's terrible. Rockaway, if you're not from New York, is a beach that was hit hard by Hurricane Sandy, and it's not as representative as one might want to hear. So I'm really happy to see you guys out here. Can you talk a little bit about what your organization does?
So at the Rockaway Youth Task Force, we really believe in the power of youth. So we believe in educating young people about the issues that affect us and making sure our voices are heard in the community. So
That's actually really interesting. You're not just an environmental group, you're a group about things that are happening, and the environment is one of the things that you're concerned about.
yes, so it's actually so climate justice isn't necessarily one of our main priorities, but we do work on food justice, which definitely intersects with climate justice.
It's hard to have food if everything's poisoned and the environment's too hot to grow stuff.
So not only food justice, so we have our urban farming community garden, but we also work on school to prison pipeline, so educational justice, police reform, civic engagement, and like I said, food justice.
How's Eric Meeks on food justice issues? He's your representative, isn't he? Eric Meeks.
Just mix two people together.
Well, who are they? Oh, Eric Adams. Eric, I don't know. You tell me. It's been a while.
It's Congressman Meeks and Eric Ulrich. He's
first name?
He's the west side of the peninsula, and Donovan Richards is our counsel.
Meeks isn't the best on justice issues, is he?
I wouldn't know.
Let's look him up. I don't think he is so great on the environment. When I was living there, I didn't get that impression that he was really very progressive. What do you think people should know about how important it is that the youth are getting involved in movements today?
I think it's important to look at the history of other social justice movements and realize that young people have always been on the front lines of these movements, and to realize that we have the energy, we have the power, our voices are important, and that's why we come out here and organize.
Do you think that the upswell of activism around gun violence in schools that has been led by young people and high school students has encouraged other young people to get out about whatever their issues are?
I do think so. Specifically around gun violence is definitely something that communities of color have been advocating and fighting for years, and I mean, it is a good thing that it was finally really brought to push after what happened in Parkland, but it's also important to realize where the movement started, who really was on that front line, and yeah, I do think it encourages young people to realize that their voices are important, not only around gun violence, but whatever issue affects them.
Thank you so much. What would you tell folks watching at home that they can go and do? What should they do right now in terms of the environment? I'm all for recycling, but I think we need to really get moving on this thing. Recycling isn't going to cut it.
Obviously, if you have local community garden or urban farm, to get involved, and also any local organization around that works on a variety of issues, to just get involved, donate if you can.
That's a great idea, getting involved locally instead of just sort of waiting to take action on a national level. Mm-hmm. And that's important too, but thank you so much. Thanks. Good luck.
I give you my name and...
You don't have to, but you can tell the people, where can they go to find out more about what you do?
So you can visit our website at rytf.org or visit us on Facebook at Rockaway Youth Task Force.
That's great. We're live streaming this, so it kind of just goes out there and we'll get the message out. Thank you so much. You're watching ACT-TV's live coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City. We're marching down 7th Avenue, just past 56th Street in the big shopping district. Maybe someone will talk to us about consumer culture and the death of the environment. We'll see. There's a fake Mike Pence with no pants. Let's go get him. We're going to chase down Mike Pence with no pants. We're going to have to pass these tourists. Mike Pence, would you talk to us on camera?
No, I'm encouraging everybody that's asking me questions today to talk to somebody under 20.
Oh, we already have. We're pretty much talking to everybody.
Yeah.
I noticed you're not wearing any pants.
I'm not.
Is there a reason for that?
I look like Mike Pence, and I dress up on the weekends in hot pants, and I raise money for organizations that support causes in communities that are under attack from the Trump-Pence administration.
That's a lot. That must keep you. We
very busy.
Pretty much we stream progressive marches, all of them, as many as we can.
A lot of them.
I think I've seen you before, actually. So we're all
Families Belong Together march in D.C. 3 weeks ago.
Oh, were we there? We did one here. I think there was one here.
Yeah.
We try to do as
all over. Yeah.
Such an important issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought the fact that you didn't have pants on was a sort of a nod to the fact that he's a liar and his pants have burned off.
I like that interpretation.
Feel free to use it.
Thank you.
No, I think it's really important to have art and artistry and satire. I'm a comedian involved in this. Can you talk about why that's important? Why you think?
I just think it cuts through a lot of the negativity and the screaming at each other on social media. I think what is emerging is humor and creativity and originality. I think we've seen that with late night TV hosts and how they've sort of emerged as the prominent voices in all of this. And I think that's the reason.
Thank you so much. Anything else you'd like to say? Folks watching, how they can get involved, what they should need to know right now?
Yeah, people my age haven't been very successful in combating climate change, so I'm here today to support the young voices.
We have. We had an Endangered Species Act until maybe next week when Ryan Zinke's trying to gut it. I mean, we did make some. Then capitalism just kind of came and rolled over everything.
Well, I'm hoping that this generation is even more successful.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks. You're watching the Youth Climate March here in New York City. That was awesome. We just talked to one of what I would say is the artists and satirists who are here making these marches. Not that they're not already interesting, but making them a full spectrum of voices. Let's see who else we can talk to without falling into one of these grates. We're actually walking by an Irish pub. We're walking past a very famous place where people come and get drunk. Okay. And now we're walking under Ray's Pizza. You're watching the original Ray's Pizza. I thought it closed. I really thought I saw a commercial saying they closed. Oh, really? The original Ray's Pizza. I think the original one actually closed. Anyway, they don't really have a lot of vegetarian options at the original Ray's Pizza. I'm not sure what their climate policy is. Hey, there's Matt, our other streamer. You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Youth Climate March. Let's try to get up ahead, Rebecca, and see if we can talk to some of these other marchers about the issues that they're happy to be carrying the torch for today.
That you pulled out of Paris. You should be embarrassed that you pulled out of Paris. You should be embarrassed that you pulled out of Paris.
There is, I don't know if you heard that, but one of the marchers is chanting, leading a chant, "You should be embarrassed that you pulled out of Paris." I don't think that Trump gets embarrassed. The sign in front of us, unless someone like you cares an awful lot, nothing is going to get better. Hi, do you want to talk to us? I'd love to talk to you about being here today. Sure. Yeah. Hi. So, how did you hear about this march today?
I heard about it from a bunch of different climate organizations. I'm a part of a bunch.
Which ones are you in?
350. I think that's the main one, and then there's a bunch of smaller ones. Sunrise Movement.
Oh yeah, we just talked to those people. Yeah, that was great. That was terrific. So talk about what should we talk about? Here we are, and we're marching down the street in the Youth Climate March, and I've been talking to folks about. Well, you're. I don't want to spring this on you because it's not like you're wearing a sign, "Women for Climate Change," but you are a young woman, and I wonder if there's any overlap between your experience as being a young woman these days and what's happening in the climate.
I definitely think that feminism and also climate action is related. The whole idea of like climate justice.
Are we having
working?
No, we're fighting for the environment so you can have clean food and eat. But we love you. Good luck.
So working for all marginalized communities and realizing how certain effects of climate change impact all communities. So I definitely think that women are impacted.
It seems like women are some of the first people, in addition to minorities, who are impacted by issues of resource scarcity, especially in areas, less developed areas. And issues of resource scarcity come from a changing environment. Maybe the water's dirty now, or you can't grow crops and you can't support your families, etc.
Yeah, and that's what women women tend to have to go get water for their family, and they're the first supporters of their family. So it's definitely a big issue.
Do you think that, what do you think that the importance of this being a youth climate march is as opposed to just a climate march?
I think it's important to recognize that youth really do care about what's happening politically and like what's happening in our world.
Are you in school?
Yeah, I'm a college student.
Oh, that's great. And so is there, college has always been a hotbed of new learning, discussing activism, discussing politics. Do you find that it's in all of your classes, including chemistry, or things that don't necessarily... I'm just wondering to get a sense of if activism, because it's upswelling from the ground, has seeped into the ivory tower.
Yeah, I think it's definitely working its way in. I know that my school, at least, is trying to incorporate more sustainability courses. We're starting an initiative, I guess, getting a survey.
In the core. What's sustainability in the core curriculum?
I think some colleges are definitely better at that.
Where do you go?
I go to Vassar.
Oh, yeah. Well, get them on top of it.
Yeah, I think we're definitely working on it.
That's great.
Yeah.
You could do it.
Yeah.
You could demand that it gets in the core curriculum that everyone has to take. Or that freshman thing when they come beforehand.
Yeah. We do have a lot of sustainability courses, I think. But
also colleges themselves can... I'm sorry. Totally. I got a lot of questions. Colleges themselves can do things like divest from fossil fuels. They can...
Yeah, we're definitely working on that. I think it's really hard to get colleges to understand why it's so important because, at least in my college, the trustees really care about the endowment and making the most money as possible. But by divesting, you can actually make as much money or more. So there's really no...
You have to explain that because it seems not to be second. It doesn't seem to be understandable.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And also like using... have the campuses, your friends where they're at school or you're at school, have they started to do more green things? Maybe have their buildings be more environmentally friendly, have the food be more environmentally friendly and food justice based, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
There's so much work to do.
It is, because there's so many different avenues you can go down to do climate action. I think it's now like the cool thing, and it looks good for colleges to be more sustainable.
So that's great. Once capitalism gets in there, it'll force you. Right. Yeah, well, that is one really astute observation about if the youth actually cares about this and they show that they're going to make financial choices based on caring about the environment, the money establishments, including colleges, will have to follow.
Yeah, definitely.
What are you studying at Vassar?
Environmental studies.
Oh, well, good for you. That's what I did too. Yeah. Well, nice meeting you. Yeah. Thanks for talking to us today. You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Youth Climate March. We are coming up on 49th Street and 7th Avenue in New York City. Do you know where we are? Can you tell from our camera work? We just stumbled over some tourists. That should be a clue. We're coming up on Times Square, which is an incredibly visible place for people both in New York City, although most New Yorkers do not come here if they can avoid it, and tourists. So if you want to do a march in New York City that actually turns the head of tourists and people from outside of town who may then hopefully go home and talk about what they saw, New York's Times Square is a great place for that. There are many, many beautiful signs here. One I'm seeing right now is more solar plus more wind equals fewer Sandys. Hurricane Sandys.
Yeah, we just moved to Brooklyn a year ago from this area.
We're repositioning ourselves. Again, you're watching the Youth Climate March here in New York City. I'm Juliana Forlano. You're watching act.tv. If you like this kind of coverage, this kind of talk that you're certainly not hearing on the mainstream media, I mean, there's basically a climate change and environmentalism blackout going on in the mainstream media. I think it's very important to talk both about environmentalism and climate change. Climate change obviously has to do with fossil fuels and that kind of thing, but there's food justice, which is important environmental movement. There is anti-pollution, which is important. There is activism to protect endangered species, to protect animals, to protect different species and biodiversity, from which, of course, if you're only self-interested in this kind of thing, it's about where we get our medicines and where we get our food, and that seems to be an important thing if you want to continue humanity. Again, I'm Juliana Forlano. You're watching Facebook's live coverage, act.tv on Facebook's live coverage of the climate march. Hi, you want to talk? Come talk.
What?
Well, I don't know, the environment. Talk about community bike works.
It's my favorite place to go when I'm bored and I need somebody to talk to.
That sounds awesome. No, really, I mean, I've been talking to people up and down. We're live streaming this march on Facebook, and really the idea of community seems to be something that's at the heart of environmental activism.
It is. We're from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we have different locations of community bike works. Our main concern is youth and the community and how to get us working with the community, and that's
what's here? What here?
Avery, say something. These are my friends. We're all youth leaders.
That's wonderful.
We're all youth leaders.
Can you talk about so community bike works? What does it have to do with bikes?
We fix bikes and we give it out to children, and they fix it with us, and then they earn their bike, and it's a program that everybody does.
That is awesome.
Half of our city does it.
Can you tell people where they can go and find out more and maybe get involved in their local one or launch a local one?
Since we're on Facebook, Community Bike Works, Allentown, Pennsylvania is on Facebook. .org, yeah, .org, communitybikeworks.org.
So why involved in a climate march?
Because it's something that we need to press forward on, because we can actually die from it, and I actually want to live my life.
What? Say it again?
Because I actually want to live my life.
Yeah. How old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 14.
Oh, she's 14. I love you.
I'm 15.
Congratulations. I want her to live her life, too. I mean, really, I have a baby. She's 2. Yeah, I have a 2-year-old, and it's really quite scary to be reading what they're doing to the environment.
Like all these trains, we could actually make a difference. We have all these transportation and we have cars, and it's damaging the earth, when we could just use that to do something else. If we could carpool, do a whole bunch of stuff. But no, people want to take the easy way out and do something different.
It seems like people, when I'm driving around, people are one person per car. It's like they don't want to actually talk to other human beings. People are afraid to talk to other people. What do you think?
I think it's true.
People are kind of scary, so I could see why. I mean, some people.
Yeah, but it's if you share, it's better. People could actually, when we make a difference, it's gonna be so much bigger, because then it's we have time.
I noticed that you are there's a good diversity of, there's boys, girls, black people, other cultures, etc.
A lot of different ethnicities. We deal with everything, literally.
I noticed that there's a lot of white people usually at climate marches. You ever notice that?
Yes.
Do you know why that is?
I don't. I think it's because they want to push it more. I don't know.
I want to just point out quickly that we are walking past Fox News, the Fox News building. Boo. This is Fox News right here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Fox State Propaganda Building is right here to our right. Yes. You can feel the evil just pouring off the building. It's really bad. They are an arm of state propaganda. And the group has stopped. And they are chanting climate justice now. You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the youth climate march.
Climate justice! Now! Climate justice! Now! Climate justice! Now! Climate justice!
As you can see, there are hundreds of people marching through the streets of New York, and it's a very fortuitous route to be taking past Fox News, basically the government propaganda arm, who has marched us into wars under false pretenses, who has given cover to the most heinous of acts using some sort of twisted morality. So boo to them. The group had stopped and was chanting climate justice now, climate justice now. Yeah, one of the singers, maybe we can run up and catch him, was singing Bob Dylan's "Oh, the Climate, It Is a Changin'." Let's talk to the 0 Hour people. Hi, 0 Hour folks. Can any of you talk to me? Would you like to talk to us? I want to hear about what the 0 Hour is. Who should we grab? Who should I grab?
I think some of the student ambassadors.
Which one?
I think one of these. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'll grab them. Thanks a lot. We're gonna come around front, but don't be sorry. They asked me, your brethren in the back said you guys, ladies, would be good people to talk to about what the movement is for the This Is 0 Hour. Can you talk about what that is?
Okay, well,
Let's not get hit by a car.
I'm not actually sure where the name came from, though, but we're all marching just to raise awareness about climate change and show that the youth is actively involved and that we're the people that are being affected by this ultimately because we're the soon-to-be adults.
Thank God. Have you found that are your parents supportive of your activism?
Yeah, definitely. Not as supportive as I would like them to be, because I think that every adult is really compromising their ease and their convenience in order to be environmentally friendly. But I think that especially with our technology today, that it's getting easier and easier to make the choices that really matter. If everybody just, uses a recyclable bag when they go to the supermarket, if everybody does it, it makes a big difference, even if it might not seem like it.
I'm going to ask more people than this, so I don't want to put you on the spot about your poor parents. But I just wonder if, since the youth are so involved, I wonder if there are any youth who are really at odds that you've heard of, that you know about, with their parents' policies. Because there are a number of reasons why people are not concerned about the environment. Some are religious, some are just political, some don't believe it's a problem, some deny climate change. Have you heard about any conflicts between parents and young people who are concerned about this and parents who are not?
Yeah, I have. I actually grew up upstate, and
me too. Where'd you grow up?
Brewster.
Oh yeah, I'm from outside of Syracuse.
Okay. So yeah, I have a lot of friends who, and I don't want to bring in partisan lines at all. Like, that's not my intention. But who are Republican and whose parents just don't feel that this is an important issue at all. And we've talked about this because there was a club back in my middle school for this. And I think that, yes, it is an issue, especially when it, again, comes to convenience. Parents just don't want to do it because they have busy lives and they have children to raise.
We have to raise our children so they can live in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Exactly.
Doesn't seem like a good theory.
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive if you think about it, because their unwillingness to change is really like condemning us. We're the young ones who have to grow up and raise our own children. So, yeah.
No,
in terms of like parents and kids, the best thing that you could do is just talk with your parents because they love you.
Yeah.
They're
supposed to. Whether they do? No, they always do, even if they're terrible. Well, that's great. What are the issues that are happening upstate that are of concern? Or are you more concerned about global issues? Is the whole group from Brewster that you're here with?
No. I live in the city now, so no, this is...
Oh, so this is from down here. I see the back of the shirts say, "This is 0 Hour." What does that mean?
I'm not too sure.
I'm guessing it means like, this is it, people. Climate change is gonna...
Yeah, somebody told me it, but I forget.
Yeah. The Climate Museum, what's that?
I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's a museum.
You don't have a shirt. Oh, no, you do have it. You're wearing the shirt and you don't even know. You got to ask some questions.
I know, yeah, but I haven't. I came here with a friend, and she knows a lot about this.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Oh, well, thank you. Which one is she? I'll go pass to her with questions. Oh, she's giving a speech. Oh, good. Well, we'll listen for it once we get up to the thing. Thanks so much for talking to us. That was great. That was great. Oh, sorry, Rebecca. I keep stepping on our camera woman's feet. You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the climate march. Should we go up front? We're going to move up front a little bit. It's a youth climate march happening here in New York City. We started in front of the Trump Tower, and it's hot now. And we're walking. We walked down past. Let's talk to the. Yeah. Will you guys talk? I'm Juliana Forlano. I'm from act.tv, and I'd love to chat with you about why you got involved in today's march.
Because I'm very actively involved in 350 NYC, and we're out to support youth action on climate. We have created the problem, and it's up to our generation to find the political and policy solutions to the catastrophe of climate change.
Now I don't want. No, that's fine. And I notice. Hi, look, there's one of our youngest. You're one of the youngest marchers here. I know they've been calling it a youth climate march, but I do notice there are people here of all ages, which I think is wonderful. Yeah. Do you talk to your daughter about what's happening in the climate?
I'm just telling her that we're here to protect the animals and their homes.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing to do on a Sunday morning.
Yes.
Do you like animals? Yeah. Which one is your favorite?
All of them.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer. That's a great answer.
Save the future.
Yeah, we got to save the fish.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Start marching or we'll all sink like stones, cause you know the climate's changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. The old road is rapidly aging. Hey, get on to the new one if you can. Lend your hands, cause the climate, you know, is changing.
Awesome. We stopped here, 5th Avenue and 48th Street. And there is every time we pass a corner, whether it's New Yorkers or tourists, we do seem to be making an impact. I think everyone knows something's wrong with our climate. I think people know it. Yikes! You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City. The march started at Trump Tower in one of the many ugly Trump phallic towers. Ill-gotten gains by Donald Trump in New York City in front of Columbus Circle. And we have marched, I don't know, how many blocks do you think we marched, Rebecca? Like maybe 15?
We are, yeah.
About 15 blocks. We went right through Times Square, and now we're going across town. We just passed 5th Avenue. I think we're on 48th Street or 47th Street. 48th Street. In the middle of Midtown. We're marching toward the United Nations Plaza, Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, which is on 30-something, so we have a little bit of ways to go, but it's fabulous because these climate marchers are bringing attention to, I want to talk to the bee. Let's go talk to the bee. Let's get the bee. Oh, I'm running to get the bee. Oh, could we talk to the bee? Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Would you mind talking to us?
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
I'm not really good at it, but you
Oh,
can.
my job is to make it easy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I noticed you're dressed as a bee.
I am just a bee.
Can you talk a little bit about why you're dressed as a bee and why you're here today?
I'm dressed as a bee because bees are were registered on the endangered species list for the first time last year, I think. And they're super important for our crops and basically living and everything we do.
Yeah, isn't it shocking that the media, you're getting media attention because you're dressed up as a bee, walking down the street, which is wonderful. And we're an independent media outlet, but the mainstream media hasn't discussed. I mean, we're discussing Trump and Russia every single night, but not the potential and soon to be hopefully fixed, but doesn't look like it, collapse of our environment.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
kind of a problem.
kind of a problem.
Yeah.
What made you come out here today? Other than the bees, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here to support kind of youth and taking a stand for what I believe in, and also supporting other people my age and young people in learning to stand for what they believe in as well.
How did you find out about the fact that the bees are having colony collapse disorder and we're in big trouble in terms of our food chain if it's not covered in mainstream media? How did you find out about it?
There's some really good documentaries on Netflix about it that I've seen. And just kind of reading what I can and what I found.
How did you get into reading that kind of stuff? I know for me, I started working at a health food store, and someone handed me a book called Diet for a New America, and I was like, oh my God, all of this is happening, and now here I am. But how did you find your way? Because is this a normal way of thinking for young people now? Or because for me, it was like finding something really unusual and an unusual way to think. I grew up in the suburbs.
Yeah, I hope that it's becoming usual for people to think about this. I learned about it because I took a beekeeping course when I was in school, when I was really young, and sort of recently have come back to it. And it's kind of a newish interest for me. And the more I became interested, the more I started reading about it. So yeah, that's how I've definitely had to seek out the information though, because it's not in the mainstream media at all, if very little.
You're in school right now?
Yeah, I'm at the new school.
Oh, that's great. That's a good place to go if you care about stuff.
Exactly.
What are you studying?
Musical theater.
Well, that's wonderful, because I think the theater could be a place where you can actually get messages to people.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful way to communicate, and that's one of the reasons I was really drawn to it, because it's a kind of creative outlet and a way to communicate ideas that maybe people wouldn't think of.
We just talked to the guy who is dressed up as Mike Pence about how important it is to have creativity be part of these marches. Because basically it doesn't always have to be everyone's angry all the time. I mean, you'll burn out. This is a long haul to fight for the environment.
Exactly. I think it's really important to stay creative, and I think it's a really good way to kind of stay passionate about activism is to kind of put art and creativity into it. And it makes it fun, because why not? If we're going to be out here doing it, might as well.
You look fabulous. I love it.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to say to people who are watching? They can find out about the bee stuff. Seems important.
Educate yourself, because it's a problem. So that's what I would say. Seek out the information, because no one's going to show it to you if you don't look for it.
It's really great. It's well said. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we've hit on a number of topics today. We've hit on colony collapse disorder and the bees being put on the endangered species list. Of course, if you've been paying attention this week, you see that Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke is trying to roll back endangered species protections, and that would probably include the bees, because corporations don't like protections. They don't like to protect public land. They wanna plow it all down and suck the resources out of it and leave it barren and empty. That's their favorite thing. While you don't pay attention and go shopping. Rebecca, our camerawoman, what would you like to say?
I would just like to talk about the connection between the environment and capitalism.
Yeah, it's important.
It's important. I think the oil and gas industry is like a multi-billion-dollar issue, and maybe the reason why we're not seeing any real change to renewable is because it's not profitable. Even though it is profitable,
it's not profitable to them, and they have a stranglehold on our government officials.
Exactly. Oh, totally. I think in the bigger picture, of course, it's profitable, but to them,
well, it's profitable to all of humankind. Sometimes I just wish, couldn't Exxon just find a way to make an enormous profit off solar, and you keep making that profit and let us all just live in peace? Why can't that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answer. I think
greed is a sickness, and they're just stuck in it. Well, we came here to talk to each other maybe we should talk to some of these fantastic youth protesters. Again, you're watching ACT.tv. You're watching ACT.tv's live coverage. We're live. We're in New York City right now. Where are you? What are you doing? Leave a comment. Oh, yeah. I forgot to ask you for the last hour that we've been marching, but please leave a comment underneath the stream, because Facebook prioritizes content that has interaction. So if you leave a comment or hit like or something like that, specifically leave a comment, even if you say, we're watching from Tuscaloosa or whatever, that really helps this stream go far. And as you've heard from a lot of the conversations we've had with the young people marching today, this information about the bees, information about different climate issues, divestment, you're never going to hear those on mainstream media, and you often don't really hear about them on non-mainstream media. As a professor, I'm a professor of media studies. Shocking, I do a lot of things. We often talked with students about alternative media, and some of them knew about things that are on YouTube. They knew about ACT.tv. They know about the Young Turks, but much of media that would cover anything like this is unknown to the youth. So I think it's really important to have this kind of media and to spread it. So if you like this kind of thing and you want more information to be out there, please like our page. And if you already like it, leave a comment. I want to see what those orange circles are up there. You want to try to get to the orange circles? We'll try to. I don't want to rudely push your way over the other people. Here's the bike people again. How's it going? It's getting hot out here. We should have a big bike ride for. We should have a bike ride.
I just said
that. We're having a good time here, which is actually quite nice. Protests did not have to be. I don't know. It's unfortunate that most people have to wait till they're incredibly angry to come out and protest. I think being part of a movement is so important, especially these days when isolation, the media, the politics, they all serve to isolate. Have you felt isolated? You can leave a comment. I mean, even if you're watching MSNBC or you're watching CNN, you're watching anything mainstream, they tell you what's happening, they never give you anything to do. At least with movements, you have something to do. You have somewhere to get information and something to go and actively participate in instead of feeling disempowered by the information that you're getting every day. That's why I like you working here for ACT.tv, because we both bring you the news and also give you something you can do about it. A lot of people we've been talking about have been from 350.org, a major organization fighting for climate justice. Hi, can I interrupt your conversation for a brief moment? We've been trying to catch up to the orange circles. They're an excellent sign there. Can you talk a little bit about what they are representing? Obviously, it's the thing that you throw off a boat when someone's drowning.
Yes, well, so saving our planet because it's an emergency. We're really in a crisis and we're drowning in fossil fuels and the impact of fossil fuels. I'm part of 350 NYC. That's where the orange signs are coming from. And we just care to make a difference.
Is this a relative of yours over here or a friend?
No, I just started talking to her. We just met.
Actually, that's wonderful. I mean, I was just talking right before I grabbed you guys about the power of community and how disempowering some media can be and how disempowering not being part of an activist or part of an organization that's doing something positive can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's great to forge these connections at like a march like this. Yeah, I don't think we would ever actually be able to talk in a different. We would never meet in a different context.
Yeah. She's a college student. I'm a psychologist at a university counseling service. So I just got curious about her activism and.
Well, I am also curious about your activism, and I'm curious about your work at a college campus. We've been talking to obviously other students, and both high schools and colleges have been historically important places for activism to come out of. Can you talk about what you're doing on your particular campus?
Yeah.
Where do you go to school?
I go to Brown University.
I have often wished I had applied to. I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I went somewhere, and I'm like, oh, a place with more art would have been awesome.
Yeah, it is a great place. I think there's also like this really great community of like people studying climate stuff, like science, climate engineering, environmental studies, environmental science, and there are like really cool things at Brown. Like I'm part of a community garden, and we all like get together and like talk about organic food and things like that.
That's important.
Yeah.
I think community is so important because if you even just look around, it's not like you see a community garden as we walk the 20 blocks or so, however far we're walking, in the middle of New York City, which is the hub of, it's the big city of the U.S. Everyone talks about New York, it's the center of the universe, etc. And we just walked through the center of the center, and I didn't see any organic garden.
Yeah.
It's very disturbing.
But it's hard to find community, but when you do, it's important.
Exactly. It's like so easy to find community around the Disney store and the other, I hesitate to say, crap that you can find in the, in the shopping districts. It's my dream, my vision that the next Times Square will be a community garden where people.
Most crowded, isolating place, I know.
Oh, so much. And talk about, so can I ask you, you said you're a psychologist?
Yes, I am.
Can you talk about, a question I would have for you is, have you seen, oh wait, back it up a little, okay. Give some room, sorry, we're squeezing the camera. Getting a nice shot of my belly button. Again, you're watching ACT-TV's live coverage of the Climate March. We're here in New York City. We are turning down 2nd Avenue from 48th Street. We are going a little bit farther from Times Square, which makes me feel better. Physically and spiritually, mentally better. Speaking with, what school are you you don't have to say it. No, it's okay. I get it. But a psychologist at a college. University. So have you seen a rise in folks who are experiencing anxiety or depression secondary to what's happening in our political system?
Absolutely. I feel like I will certainly have a job for the next
me too.
2.5 years, for sure. No problem. But in my own private practice as well as at the university, there is so much anxiety, fear, distress, depression that has increased since the elections.
What would you suggest? I think people at home who may be experiencing their own anxiety but may not have professional help available to them. What would you suggest people do in the current circumstances who are experiencing that?
Well, I think looking for stories of hope where positive change is happening can really help be an antidote to the feelings of helplessness. I also think joining with others, joining an organization, a movement, to combat the sense of isolation and to not feel alone in what you're going through is one of the most important things.
Yes, that's all. I've often said that as a person who covers these marches, how important it is. Again, we've kind of hit this nail on the head, but to be with other people who you can have a conversation with, I think it's literally by design to keep us separated from each other, to keep us all anxious and frightened. And as I've said in the past, when news doesn't give you something to go do, a way to be active, a way to be part of the solution, you can literally aggravate any underlying condition that maybe you already have. It's terrifying.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And what is act.tv?
act.tv, we're a Facebook Facebook-based media organization. We're a media organization, and we live stream, in addition to other things, providing information, etc. We live stream events and marches and protests, progressive only. It's not like we're doing the white man's power rallies. But yeah, you can find us on act.tv. We're live right now. So we bring this to as many people as maybe who couldn't get here today. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
And there's going to be...
Again, you're watching. We are watching the Youth Climate March here in New York City. We've made it very close to Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, which is right in front of the United Nations, and I believe they are stopped and talking. There's going to be speakers in a little bit. You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City. Hundreds of young people and people of all ages have marched from uptown, from Columbus Circle, right in front of the Trump International Tower, to here, where we are very close to the UN in Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza. I think we're going over there, where there's going to be a rally with speakers coming up. They're setting up the podium, and there's a media section where we're going to be able to hear the speakers who are going to speak today. Again, you're watching the Climate March, Youth Climate March here in New York. It's gotten hot all of a sudden. I think they said it's going to rain. I hope. Yeah. So we've got Cynthia for New York T-shirt up front, and this is 0 hour. Hey, I've been trying to figure out what this is 0 hour means. Can someone tell me?
I'm not too sure. It might be getting to zero fossil fuel emissions.
We need the person who made the signs. Where'd they?
They're over there. Yeah, they're over there.
Oh, well, the organizers. Good idea. That's great. I notice you have a Cynthia for New York shirt on.
Yes, I do. I'm volunteering for the campaign, so let's hope she wins.
Let's hope she wins. Can you talk a little bit about her environmental stance?
Right, well, Cynthia is very much about climate policy. She wants to try to get New York on as much renewable energy as possible, and she's a very strong climate policy advocate. I would say much stronger than Cuomo. Even though Cuomo banned fracking in the state, Cynthia plans to go much further.
Well, it seems like there's still a lot of pipelines being laid underneath our fine state, whether fracking is happening or not. Maybe she could stop that too.
Yes, she could. Yes.
And what do you say to folks who, I think this is really important, and we've been covering some of Cynthia's campaign. What do you say to folks who aren't aware of Cynthia's platforms and just know her as an actress?
Right, well, if you go on Cynthia's websites, her policies are all laid out and they're very effective. Some people, talk about her experience, but Cynthia has a way of getting things done, and it's very laid out, it's very effective.
I mean, we have a president who has no experience, but he's doing a terrible job. It'd be nice to have Cynthia, who has experience as an activist, to get in and do some work in that way.
Yes, it could, and they're also completely different.
Oh, yeah, they're completely different. I mean, they're polar opposites with policy.
Yes, they are, yes.
I think having people who are activists is running for politics is really, they're two different games, activism and politics, and it'd be great to have more activists in politics.
And she comes from the people, she knows what everyone wants. So in that sense, not coming from a privileged position, Andrew Cuomo's father was Mario Cuomo. So it brings some change. It brings a way of...
Yes, Andrew seems to have lost the Italian, guy. I think their parents owned like a store in the Bronx or something. I can't remember the exact history, but they had really that immigrant history. And down the line, they kind of turned into would-be Republicans, basically, even though he wears a Democratic D next to his name.
Yes.
Well, it looks like people are getting lined up. I don't want to get in the way here. But thanks for talking to us. You're watching ACT.TV's live coverage of the Youth Climate March. Here in New York City, the youth are lining up for a rally, so we're going to make our way maybe over to where the organizers are and see if we can maybe talk to one of the organizers of the rally. They do seem busy, and look how young they are. I think that's the best part. So let's see if we can talk to one of the... I think we did speak to one woman for... Hi, we're stalking you from earlier. Hi. So you are one of the organizers of the march, is that correct?
I am part of a partnering group. So I'm with the Youth Progressive Policy Group. Should I be talking to the camera?
No, you can talk to me.
Okay, so I'm with the Youth Progressive Policy Group, and we kind of take this and the beliefs and goals of young people, and we take policy that kind of echoes that, and then we go to Albany and talk one-on-one with legislators trying to get those bills passed. So the main bill that we're advocating for is called the Climate and Community Protection Act, which is in the Senate now, the state Senate. So we're going to take young people and we go on buses and we go to Albany and we talk one-on-one with legislators trying to get these bills passed.
What would this particular bill do for New York and, of course, since we're all one global community, the rest of the world?
So it basically puts a plan in place in order to slowly adjust from to renewable energy sources. So we have a climate committee that would set achievable benchmarks per year, and the goal is to get New York State completely on renewable energy sources by 2040.
Is there a lot of support for this bill?
Yeah, well, it actually got to the Senate, and there are a lot of groups that are partnering with it, advocating for it, and we're trying to use our unique platform in order to get this passed.
As youth.
Crucial, exactly, as youth. Young people can't vote, but we have so many other powers and we have so much sway that it's really important.
You will be voting. It's not that long.
We will, yes. Believe me, yeah.
You'll be actually hopefully running for office and then people can vote for you.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Are you able to partner with people from upstate as well?
Yeah, so we have people from Rochester coming in, we have people in Westchester, and we kind of partner. We also have a chapter in New Jersey. So all together, we kind of come on buses on these days of the year called lobbying days, where we go and take action.
How can people get involved?
Young people can join our group. There's lobbying and petitioning. There's calling your representatives. There's also sharing on social media and making sure that your economic sway helps corporations and companies that help the world.
Meaning buy stuff that's environmentally friendly or support companies whose politics are environmentally friendly.
Exactly. We have sway as a huge group of consumers in order to get our goals across. We really need to show that we will stand for our beliefs and we will support those who support us.
How do you feel about today's march?
I think it's amazing. It's very exciting. We've been working on this for the past couple of months. We've been partnering with 0 Hour, and it's really great to see our goals come to fruition.
Can you tell me what it means when they're saying the 0 hour? I've been trying to get an answer, and it's been I haven't gotten the answer.
It means that now is the time to act, and there's no other time. This is the last time and the most important tipping point before we can't do anything else. So young people really need to step up now. Everyone needs to step up now for the sake of our country, for the sake of our world.
How can old people help if we're not young anymore?
So
middle-aged people.
Coming out and supporting us, making sure that we follow the same demands, follow what is economically friendly, making sure that you get out and vote because you have that power and you have that sway, and it's important to show that.
You know, there's, I'm not sure exactly where millennial cuts off to, I think, what is next after that? Z? Gen Z. That's you, right? You're Gen Z. It seems like millennials have gotten a bad rap for doing nothing except getting involved in the tech industry, but Gen Z seems to be like, hey, we got to fix all this stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that? You can't talk about everyone, obviously, but...
Yeah. The goal is to get everyone involved. You know, this is an issue that transcends age. It transcends every kind of separation of people. This is an issue that has to bring us together, and we have to get together in order to make sure that it comes through.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck. We're looking forward to hearing the speakers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City. As you can see, we'll turn our camera a little bit. As you can see, there are hundreds of young people lined up to hear the speakers, which are going to be coming up pretty soon here on the stage. We are very close to the United Nations. And the speaker is thanking folks. Yeah, we're going to go into the media pen, a little cage for us media people in case we start trouble.
What do you do? Leave it in the ground.
It wouldn't hurt. Rebecca. I think we're going to do one more interview. Hold on a second. We're coming across the hall, people. Hi. We're coming into the crowd.
What do you do with that dirty oil? What do you do?
We are scanning the crowd for the director of the Climate Museum, who we'd love to speak to if we can have an opportunity. I find it almost sad that we have to have a climate museum. I'd hate to have it all in the museum. You can see the size of the crowd, the age of the crowd. Again, we're here at the Youth Climate March. It's okay, we're gonna, yeah. I don't, we're going to go actually get positioned in front of... Hi, how are you? I'm good. We know each other from another interview that I did, right? No. I thought so. But my camera woman is gone, so I have to go. Okay. Okay, sorry. I lost my camera woman there for a minute in the crowd. And, oh, great. Rebecca. Oh. We probably could answer the same questions. Yeah. Oh, I think we have to get in the stage. Okay, thanks anyway. Thanks. We're getting... I think there's another woman in the pen that we could, or near the pen that we could probably get. As you can see, they're having a sing-along as the young people set up the... they are setting up the stage. I just saw a sign that said Mother Earth and then Me Too, which I thought was awesome.
Feel that cool breeze on your skin. There's lots of power there. There's lots of power there. There's lots of power there. Oh, feel that cool summer breeze against your skin. There's lots of power there. Fossil fuels no more. Using fossil fuels no more.
Okay, so we're in the media pen. I'm going to take one of these. We're actually live, so we're live streaming the whole thing. This is it, right? There's 2 pages. Oh, I got it. So I have a little bit of extra information as you're watching the sing-along, while behind us the speakers get ready to take the stage and speak. 0 Hour was founded and led by high school students across the U.S. This is their day of peaceful protest to bring national attention to climate change's impact on their particular generation and future generations. 0 Hour affirms that environmental justice is social justice. I think that's really important. New York citizens is socio-economically disadvantaged communities are disproportionately impacted by the dangerous effects of the city's overconsumption of fossil fuels. So pretty soon we're going to see a number of speakers. We have Ilana Cohen and Amy Torres from the 0 Hour New York City. We have Ariana Khan, a youth climate activist, Alyssa Chen. We have from the Climate Museum Youth Advisory Council, there are speakers from 0 Hour New York City, the Executive Vice President of Student Government for CUNY, that's where I teach, a junior coordinator at 0 Hour New York City, and a fellow at the Sunrise Movement. Local partners for this movement are People's Climate Movement, Alliance for Climate Education. And you're watching Act TV's live coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City. Go ahead.
We better start acting or we'll all sink like stones. You got that one? If this world, if this earth to you is worth saving, we better start acting or we're all sinking like stones. If this world to you is worth saving, then we better...
It's a beautiful day here in New York City. We're bringing you the Youth Climate March. It's really beautiful to see all these young people out here. We have a couple people coming up to pitch events that they would like covered, including the building of a power plant north of here.
Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. For he who gets hurt is he who has stalled. We're not stalling though, right? This is good, this is good. For he who gets hurt will be he who has stalled. There's a battle outside raging. Everyone seems to feel like the world's alright, I don't know. There's a battle outside raging. It'll soon shake our windows and rattle our walls, because you know the climate's changing. It'll soon shake our windows and rattle our walls. Times they are a-changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land. Don't criticize what you can't understand. Oh, don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. The old road is rapidly aging. Please get on to the new one if you can lend a hand. The old road is rapidly aging. Please get on to the new one if you can lend a hand. Because the climate, you know, is changing. The line it is drawn.
You're watching Act TV's live coverage of the Youth Climate March and Rally here in New York City. We're waiting for the speakers to get ready, get on the podium and talk. And they're having a lovely sing-along here right near the United Nations Plaza.
Song. Now's the time for your loving dear, and now's the time for your company. When the light of reason fails, and when the fires burn on the sea, oh, in this time of confusion near, I have need for your company. Once I was free to the children of angry men. We are children wild and free. We are children of angry men. And we are children wild and free. And the only thing I don't understand is why you're not here standing next to me. Oh, the only thing you don't understand is why you're not here standing.
You're watching ACT.TV's coverage, live coverage of the Climate March and Rally here in New York City. Oh, rules, rules, rules. We're going to be bringing you the speakers pretty soon. As you can see, they're setting up here. We're near Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, and the rules are that they can't use their microphone until 1 o'clock. So that's why we are patiently waiting to hear the speakers. And I listed them a little bit before who's coming up, but it is a very youth-heavy list of speakers, which I think will be wonderful.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got until it's gone. In paradise, put up a parking lot.
The mic.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Testing. All right, we're going to start in about a minute.
Okay, we're going up to the stage now. You're watching ACT.TV's live coverage of the Youth Climate March here in New York City, where youth and non-youth have marched from Columbus Circle in front of Donald Trump's International Hotel and Tower, all the way here to Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, where we are near the United Nations, and the speakers are just about to get started. This has been brought to you, this march has been organized by the 0 Hour NYC Youth Climate March. 0 Hour, founded and led by high school students across the U.S., organized this day of peaceful protest to basically bring national attention to climate change's impact on their generation and future generations. They want to make the point that, obviously, dating back to the Industrial Revolution, climate scientists are observing a significant increase in global temperatures and a decrease in ecosystem biodiversity, primarily due to escalation of CO2 levels caused by irresponsible industrial human activity, not to mention the plowing down. This is my addition, not theirs, but not to mention the plowing down of ecosystems, including, I can't even get into it. There's so much that we've done. It's shocking that we haven't got to these tipping points beforehand. And now Ryan Zinke wants to roll back our protections on on endangered species and public lands. That's happening now, so definitely call your Congress people. There are some announcements happening. They're moving the crowd a little bit more forward so that people can see the speakers. They're going to be starting the speakers. We've got youth speakers, youth leaders, hopefully tomorrow's elected officials speaking. The Youth Climate March here in New York City.
Hey everyone, how are we feeling? I can't hear you! My name is Alana Cohen and I'm 17 years old.
And my name is Amy Torres, and I'm also 17.
We're the co-heads head coordinators of 0 Hour NYC. Before we begin our official rally program, I want to give you some background on how we came to stand before you today at this historic youth-led march for climate justice. As a politically active student with a passion for government and social justice, combating climate change had long been on my ideological agenda. I have always believed in the importance of protecting our Earth and in the legitimacy of climate science. With record-breaking heat and rising sea levels, we cannot doubt that climate change is real. With the consensus of 97% of actively publishing climate scientists, we cannot doubt that human activity is accelerating it. This scientific truth is not a question of politics and party lines. It is a matter of facing our shared reality. Part of what I'm going to talk about today is that there's a difference between belief and action. It wasn't until last spring when I took an environmental politics class as a high school senior that I realized I had a responsibility to go beyond believing in the science, beyond saying I cared about our planet. I had a responsibility to rise up and take action on climate change, to bring my knowledge outside of the classroom. When my teacher showed us the webpage for 0 Hour, a newly formed student-led organization founded by 16-year-old Jamie Margolin in Seattle, I saw a unique opportunity to bring my experience and energy as a youth activist to the climate movement here in my home city. Soon, I was working with Amy and a coalition of our peers to translate our understanding of public policy and our hunger for action into today's march. Over the course of march organizing, 0 Hour has transformed into an international movement. Today, as Jamie and her peers march in our nation's capital, as we rally in our city's streets less than 1 block away from United Nations headquarters, we are joined across the country and world in a global call to action. And our call is about more than protecting our planet. It's about protecting all of its inhabitants, advancing not only a more sustainable future, but a more equitable and democratic one. Because environmental justice is social justice. And our call is about young people, Generation Z, stepping up to continue the fight our predecessors waged in centuries past for civil rights and world peace and a healthy planet. This year especially, from the energy surrounding Me Too and Black Lives Matter to the push for common sense gun reform, we have seen the capacity of youth to make positive change. Today, we're channeling that same energy, not only as New Yorkers and Americans, but as global citizens, calling upon our policymakers to put aside special interest politics and act now to combat the greatest threat of the 21st century. No matter how negligent our presidential administration, how frustrating our federal politics, and how corrupt our anti-climate lobbyists, we will raise the call for real systemic change on every level of governance.
And that's why, no, I can't. Can you hear me? Hello? Oh. And that's why we have clear guiding principles and a policy platform for our march. Our 3 universal demands, published on our website and written on our official march literature, serve as our mantra here at 0 Hour NYC. They frame the direction we want our federal, state, and local lawmakers to follow. We call for 1. Total divestment of public and private funds from the fossil fuel and big agriculture industries. This means voting out lawmakers who take fossil fuel money. It means pushing your employers and the local institutions to divest from climate regressive industries. For us students here off to college, It means fighting for change on our own campuses. This also means examining the carbon footprint of our dinner plates and the hidden cost of what leaves the grocery store in our shopping bags. Second, we demand a just transition to 100% renewable energy by 2040. In New York, we must enact progressive environmental legislation, including the Climate and Community Protection Act and a polluter's penalty, to bolster renewable energy development and fuel the creation of green jobs. Instead of perpetuating environmental racism, we need to actively invest in low-income communities and communities of color that have been disproportionately impacted by reliance on dirty energy and by the effects of climate change. Our third and final demand is a complete stop to the current construction of oil pipelines and the development of fossil fuel infrastructure. There is no time to waste. This is 0 hour. We need to start building our capacity for clean energy supply right now. These are our demands. We will continue fighting for them until the just and sustainable future we envision comes into fruition.
Beyond our policy demands, what we really want to share with you at this rally is that today's march is only the beginning. Whether you're one of our peers, adult allies, or organizational partners, whether today is your first experience in environmental activism or your 100th, every one of you is making history by joining today's march. Now, we're asking you to bring your art, your vote, your voice, every tool in your arsenal to this fight, not just today, but every day after. Very soon, you're going to hear from several students who have dedicated themselves to environmental activism. In between their speeches and after the rally, you'll all have the opportunity to register to vote. Volunteers with Why Vote, YPPG, and NYPIRG are stationed around the rally with voter registration forms. If you are not yet registered, please take a moment to find a volunteer before you leave. Now, let's welcome our student speakers to the stage with some activist energy. When we say, what do we want? You say environmental justice. What do we want? Environmental justice. And when we say, when do we want it? You say now. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Environmental justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Environmental justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. When we say, what time is it? You say 0 hour. What time is it? 0 hour. What time is it? 0 hour. What time is it? 0 hour. Woo! Now I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Since experiencing the effects of climate change firsthand in Bangladesh, student activist and 17-year-old Ariana Khan has sought to raise awareness of the issue by working with organizations such as Global Kids and Alliance for Climate Education. Please welcome to the stage Ariana Khan.
Hi, my name is Ariana Khan, and I'm 17 years old, as you've already heard. My family and I moved to New York City in 2010 from Bangladesh, a small country that is submerged underwater every year due to the impacts of climate change. During the monsoon season, I remember missing school days at a time due to the annual floods that plague my city. I was fortunate enough to not lose more than a few days of school and most of my favorite shoes, but entire villages are wiped away every year in my native country. After moving to New York City, I thought that my family and I would no longer have to deal with extreme climate disasters. I was wrong. In 2012, Superstorm Sandy caused nearly $70 billion worth of damage and devastatingly displaced many New Yorkers, some of which were my friends who reside in Far Rockaway. As it turns out, the impacts of climate change don't follow borders. Reading the news and hearing firsthand about the effects of Superstorm Sandy from my friends was a wake-up call. I began drawing parallels between my experiences in Bangladesh and in New York City. I learned that climate change is a social justice issue. Frontline communities like Bangladesh that contribute the least carbon emissions are the ones that are affected by the most hurricanes, floods, and droughts. I learned that climate change is a health issue. My little brother was born with a heart defect in Bangladesh. Doctors wouldn't release him a month after his recovery because they were scared of the polluted air outside. In New York City, asthma, allergies, and diseases are on the rise due to the changing climate. I learned that climate change is a political issue because despite the overwhelming consensus of scientists, our government officials have yet to implement policies that uplift vulnerable communities and mitigate these urgent climate impacts. Due to the silence of some of my elected representatives, I have also learned to take action. I rallied outside Governor Cuomo's office, met with council members in Albany, and participated in town halls in order to find solutions for my communities. I marched in Washington, D.C. last year with 300,000 other people that also understand the urgency of climate change. I went to Bangladesh this year to visit a Rohingya refugee camp, where I learned about the impacts of mudslides and floods firsthand. Undoubtedly, climate change is the biggest issue confronting our generation. Nonetheless, I have seen many others my age step up to educate their peers and influence change. I have seen the youth, despite not being old enough to vote in the elections, still tirelessly work to hold our government officials accountable. I have seen us organize the 0-hour march, a testament to our active desire to shape the world that we'll inherit. A world that if we don't protect, won't protect us. Although climate change may seem like too vast an issue, I'm optimistic about tackling it with an united front. And it's all going to start with us, the youth. We are not backing down. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Anya Martinez and Leela Sotsky, age 16, and Alyssa Chen, age 17, about their work as members of the Climate Museum Youth Advisory Council.
Good afternoon, New York City. Hi. My name is Anya Martinez, and I'm here with my fellow members of the Youth Advisory Council at the Climate Museum. Every few weeks, we come together to create different solutions to combat the silence on climate change. We volunteer at various events around the city to inspire other teens to combat climate change as well, in their own creative ways. The Climate Museum's mission is to educate the public on the devastating effects of climate change and encourage new ideas to overcome these challenges together. So far, our city has done a tremendous job offering more knowledge on this world crisis. Broadcasting networks such as NBC and ABC have presented more segments concerning climate change in the recent years. Resources on climate change have become more available to the public, but unfortunately, climate change is still not discussed as frequently as it should be. 63% of Americans are worried about global warming, but only 5% talk about it frequently. This issue is too severe and significant to continue ignoring. It is important for our generation to discuss climate change often so we can create a future that we're proud of. For all our participants here today, we want to thank you for recognizing the importance of spreading climate awareness. We ask that you bring the energy, knowledge, and passion that we've seen from you today back to your communities and classrooms. Start discussions, brainstorm ideas, and be creative. And most importantly, be the person who breaks the silence.
Hi everyone, my name is Leela Sotsky. I'm also a part of the Climate Museum's Youth Advisory Council, and I am here to break the climate silence. So my story starts in the classroom that one week in April when it snowed like crazy. Y'all remember? Snowflakes drifted through the open window and onto my desk. My teacher then announced, "See, that's why I don't believe in any of that climate change, global warming stuff. It's snowing outside in the middle of April." Though the weather over the previous months may have been reassuring to some, I can tell you that this is not the case. Snow in the middle of spring is not proof that the Earth is not warming. It is yet another reminder that we are destroying our planet and altering the climate. But luckily, my teacher is in a rapidly shrinking minority, despite outsized media attention on climate denial. The evidence, after all, is overwhelming. The Earth's temperature has increased by 1.62 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 19th century. Greenland lost an average of 281 billion tons of ice per year between 1993 and 2016, while Antarctica lost about 119 billion tons during the same time period. And finally, the global sea level rose about 8 inches in the past 100 years, double the rate of sea level rise last century. These statistics can feel overwhelming and disheartening. Even people who understand that climate change is happening often don't know what to do about it or feel like they can't do anything about it. However, if the youth are our future, we need to provide them with the tools to end this climate silence. We need to be able to arm teachers with formal training on global warming and provide more resources in our schools. We need to be able to enact legislation that sparks climate action. As rising leaders in our communities, it is our duty to fight for what is right, and to do that, we need to break the climate silence. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Alyssa Chen, and I'm also from the Climate Museum, and I'm 17 years old. You heard from my friends Anya and Leela, and they are also both 17 years old. We are young compared to the leaders and politicians that run this world. Yet the culprits choose to stay silent about the climate crisis. We and our children, who will inherit the earth, will be around to suffer the consequences long after the culprits are gone. We will suffer because of the inaction of our past and current leaders. We youth demand change. Human-made global warming has already caused citywide disaster. Does New York City want stronger Hurricane Sandys? What about blackouts and floods? Do you want to pay for the damage? We'll spend millions building a wall to protect us from floods, but we won't spend millions solving the problem and making our city carbon neutral. Nature will knock our walls down. I am here today to tell those in charge to start doing something. To end fossil fuel influence on politics. To end the injustice for poor communities who suffer the most from climate injustice. To tell this nation to begin living sustainably. It's easy. Switch your electricity provider from coal to solar and wind. Take a city bike one day. Avoid unsustainable food like endangered species. Do your research. Caring for the environment should be age-blind, non-partisan, and one goal. I dream of a future where humans coexist peacefully with nature, where Earth remains a livable planet for my generation and the future. I don't want to imagine living in a world where all flora and fauna disappear. Dr. Seuss warned us in his children's book, The Lorax. At the end of the story, the Onceler places the last seed in a child's hand and says, unless someone like you cares a whole lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And with this seed, the future is in our hands. Thank you.
Through his work to bolster student voter registration as Executive Vice President of Student Government at CUNY City College, 20-year-old Harris Khan hopes to support an emerging generation of climate-conscious voters. Please welcome him to the stage.
How's everybody doing? I'm so pleased to be here today. Since freshman year in college, I got my start in student activism through this group called NYPIRG, New York Public Interest Research Group. And when student activists at my community college, part of NYPIRG, told me that they managed to, in a coalition of other organizations, get hydrofracking banned in New York State. I was like, damn, I want to be like them. So since that day, I spent my time in college signing petitions up to support Attorney General Eric Schneider back then, but supporting the Attorney General in his investigation against fossil fuel companies like ExxonMobil to ensure that they are held accountable because they lied to their shareholders about the effects of climate change, to make sure that they face justice and they cannot continue lying to the American people and to their shareholders. We cannot let that happen. And apart from that, we also did voter registration on my campaign as the vice president there. A bunch of events, a bunch of voter registration to make sure people turn out to vote. We have to be very conscious about how we affect change in terms of climate justice. We have to be focused in our efforts. One such effort is CUNY Divest. At City University of New York, there's an organization that is fighting to have CUNY fully divest from fossil fuel companies and oil companies. We cannot and we should not do business with those companies that pollute the environment for our future generations. Not anymore. And we have to do this because we deserve better than the status quo. The current generation of policymakers and establishment politicians have decided to put money over people. They have decided to put politics over communities. They have decided to put their end goal, their votes, over our environment. That is dangerous, and we should not let that happen. They are supposed to lead our communities, right? They got elected. They're our leaders. They're so-called leaders. And they, instead of telling us the way forward, instead of showing us the way forward of renewable energy, that is our way forward, they are hiding the truth. They're hiding the truths about climate change. Right now, what is happening in Washington, D.C., that is not leadership. Right now, students like me and you are leading this fight. Is that right? And just like in Parkland, and right now, just like today, it is students that just not only show up to rallies, we have to advocate, we have to fight, we have to champion, we have to register to vote. Because these people, anybody who claims to be our leader and can fight for our communities, they need to be shown the door out. And they need to be voted out. When we turn out and when we vote and when we register ourselves and our friends to vote, we can make our voices heard. And there is no power, no money, no big oil, no governor, and no president that can stop us when we vote. So I need y'all to stand with me for our future. So are you with me? And are you ready to save the only planet we call home? Are you registered to vote? And if you're not registered to vote, are you going to register to vote today? Because we have some volunteers. No, you guys are not going to get away that easy. You guys also have one more thing. Are you going to register 5 either family members or friends today to vote? I'm not convinced. Some of you were like, oh, that's too much. 5 is too... No. Are you going to register 5 family members or friends to vote? I'll take that. I'll take that. Because this is not about just me and you. It's not about the people in Washington. It's not about the people in Albany or City Hall. We are the future. We're going to take over too. But it will also not just affect us. It's about our future generations. And they deserve so much more. Thank you.
Now, I'd like to give a special welcome to one of our 0 Hour New York City organizers, Natalie Sweet, who's going to speak about the artistic work underpinning today's event.
Hello everyone. It is truly incredible to see you all joining us today. So many of you are artists yourselves. Whether you take photos, paint, or do graphic design, you have a unique form of self-expression you can bring to this movement. Art has always been a staple of social justice activism and a crucial means of engaging the public in issues facing our democracy. That is why, over the last few months, the 0 Hour NYC Art Committee has worked hard to create graphics, posters, banners, videos, and most visibly, this giant mural standing behind me, in order to further today's demand for climate justice. Here's the mural. Now, I want you all to take a moment and really look at this mural. It was designed by 18-year-old artist Betty Torres. She, along with a handful of dedicated volunteers, spent 3 long weeks in June creating this mural with the support of the People's Puppets Against Wall Street organization. People's Puppets and its passionate organizers, Alexandria Zevin and Kim Fraczek, generously provide us with the space, materials, and guidance necessary to tackle this project of visually representing our call to action. As you can see, the mural portrays 2 very different worlds. On the left is a world tied to dirty fossil fuels and plagued by environmental pollution, while on the right is a world powered by clean energy and committed to a greener way of life. This is the world we want. Right now, at 0 hour, either one of these worlds could become our future. That's why we need to band together in making the right choice. We must act now in order to set ourselves to the path of sustainability. Thank you.
Now we're going to show you all another kind of visual representation of our movement. In 2015, a network of university students, organizations, and individuals from around the world worked together to establish a hand signal that represents our struggle for climate justice. Today, this so-called climate sign is used to unite people from different backgrounds and generations in expressing their shared demand for action on climate change. It's a sign of peace and unity that can be used by anyone at any time, including right here at our historic Youth Climate March and Rally. Now we're asking all of you to make the climate sign with us. You make the sign by curving your hand into the shape of the letter C to represent the climate and our solidarity with the global movement for climate justice. All right, make your climate sign and hold it up in the air. Now, try joining your sign with that of 1 or 2 of your neighbors, your allies in our fight for a fossil fuel-free future. All right, now, as you make your climate sign, we're going to ask you to take the next 30 seconds in silence to consider why you're here with us today and how you would respond to the following prompt. I care about climate because. So hold your sign, think about what it means, take a moment. When you have an answer, hold your sign higher. All right. Now turn to one of your neighbors and tell them why you're here today, why you care about climate. All right. So remember that sign. Remember this sign of unity and peace, this international symbol. You can use it any time to display your commitment to our movement, our shared movement. All right, you can all put your hands down if they're still up. We hope you got something from that moment of collective action. And with that said, Amy is going to welcome our next speaker.
As New York chair of the Youth Progressive Policy Group, 16-year-old Silvana Whitman organizes her peers to lobby our lawmakers in Albany to support progressive climate legislation.
Hello, everyone. So, I have a question. Teenagers have a million things to do on a weekend afternoon. We could be stressing about college applications or playing Fortnite, but instead, it's Saturday, and we're using our free time to stand in front of the United Nations. So why are we here? We're here because we care about our planet. We care, thank you, about our future. And we care about each other. I hear countless cynical adults saying the world is beyond saving. Might as well not even try. But when I look around, I see young people invested in helping fix our planet, invested in the environment and social justice, in ways big and small, all to make a better future. And that tells me that we are the ones to make change happen. There's a famous quote from Hillel the Elder, and then it was said by Emma Watson. Paraphrased, it goes, "If not me, who? If not now, when?" You might find the quote on a refrigerator magnet, but the Jewish leader and Emma were onto something. Because now is the time. There is no better time to act. There is no other time to act. And let me alter that quote. If not us, who? We are a movement. We do this together. And we have more real power than you think. First, we can vote. Or our parents or our older friends can vote. We can tell our politicians what we want. And if they can't meet the world's needs, then we can vote them out. During the year, YPPG gets on buses and goes to Albany, and we work with our elected representatives to pass policy that young people believe in, like making the voting age 17. Yeah, thank you. Or even 16. Mandating civics classes in our schools. And making voter registration accessible to youths, so that democracy is accessible for everyone. All this is in the Young Voter Act, our bill, which YPPG lobbied for in Albany. But the Young Voter Act is just the beginning. We must use our youth political power to support critical laws like the Climate and Community Protection Act, which creates achievable benchmarks for companies to reduce pollution and transition into renewable energy sources. Kind of common sense, right? This is not a matter of left or right. We will fight for the fundamental rights of every person on this planet. Clean water, clean air, and a livable climate. But our power is much more than just political. In fact, if we work together, we may have more influence than any generation in history. So, what are our other powers? Reach and feel for your wallets. That's our power. Everyone wants our money and our brand loyalty. It's time we ask ourselves, are we going to keep spending our money on products and services from corporations that don't care about our future? It's time we think about how we can use our economic power to make things better for our generation and the world. And the other thing in our pockets. It's not just a cell phone. It's what we will use to revolutionize the world, connecting us instantly with friends and friends of friends, and everyone who wants to make change across the planet. That's our power. And we will write and text and post and call and use that power to support crucial policies like the Climate and Community Protection Act, to support politicians who will support us, and to support companies that care about the world and treat all their workers with dignity and equality and respect. But do you know what is our biggest power of all? It's our hope. It's our determination. It's our knowledge that we won't be doing this alone, that we will do this together. Youth makes change. Let's send a message. Let's work together to demand that our leaders and older generations start making this world a better place. Youth makes change. Say it with me. Youth makes change. Say it like you mean it. Youth makes change. One more time so they can hear us in Albany and Washington, D.C. Youth makes change. Join YPPG, join Zero Hour, join your friends and your classmates here and around the world. It's time to make a difference. One more time. Youth makes change. Thank you.
As Vice President of the Suffolk Student Climate Action Committee, 17-year-old Eric Stenzel campaigns for local government agencies to support a transition to renewable energy. Please welcome him now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Eric Stenzel, and just like many of you, I'm a student. I'm an ordinary person. I care about our generation and all that will follow after us, and that's why I'm here today. We here are fighting for a cause greater than ourselves, greater than our entire generation. But we should not be special. What we are doing here should be normal, expected. When I say we, I want that to mean all of us, a collective effort for progress. Not just Democrats and progressives, but Republicans and conservatives too. It should mean young and old, male and female, black and white, American, Chinese, Mexican, German, and Nigerian, human and human. Though we are young, we are not foolish. We see the evidence around us, the rising sea levels, the dying animals, the failing crops. To the uninformed, these issues seem abstract and far off, something which is the problem of other people. The sinking islands in the Pacific Ocean and desertification of southern Spain are so far from our homes that they seem unimportant, especially in a political culture where the 24/7 media jumps from issue to issue without due diligence. But they aren't so far away. All that separates us from the largest problems of climate change is time. Time that we cannot afford to waste. It will be too late when the very spot I